The biggest challenge with this specific business is this constant thing of not having enough cleaners, not having enough clients.
A lot of cleaning businesses, they're really afraid to spend money on marketing because they're just focused on that first clean revenue.
What they don't realize is once you start spending money on ads, it just inevitably happens that you're going to get to start people to reach out to. One-time clients to me are the worst. They're always a super high cost to acquire them because they want the move out clean, they want the deep clean. And it's like, at least for my research, it's like 5% or under in this industry of churn is the perfect ratio. I've done pizza flyers where it's like I printed out 2,500 flyers that were like tailored to like a cleaning service and paid a pizza place like $200 to put 2,500. Something happened. She was like, bring me another 400 flyers. I was like, listen, if money is fascinating in the sense of like you need it for everything, but if you let it be everything, then it means nothing.
So I'll give you a little intro. We got Greg here, Simple Shine Cleaners, based out west. You want to just give some people like a quick background on who you are, why you got started in this business?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been an entrepreneur now for I think coming up on a little bit over a decade. The first business that I started when I was younger, which was like 20, I think 23 or 24, was a marketing agency. And so I worked with local businesses to help them get more leads. I ended up focusing a lot on like the med spa, float spa space. And so I was generating them leads, helping them get more business. I actually broke a couple businesses because I got them too many leads. So the way that I would get them was running giveaways. And so that was a way of like generating them like a massive amounts of leads. And then after doing that, then I would convert them to like a monthly retainer because everybody was trying to pitch like lead services to them. And so I was like, well, I got to figure out a different angle. So I did that for a couple of years and then ended up essentially kind of winding that business down. And then I went into business with a business partner for doing e-commerce. And so for the last like several years, I was just doing e-commerce. We scaled multiple brands, did well over like 8 figures in total between all the different brands that we ran. And as time went on, I've always been intrigued by doing something in the home service industry. Not to say it's like a boring industry, but it just felt like something where I was like, this is really interesting because sometimes like coming from like a different industry and then applying that knowledge and experience into a whole different thing can really give you an edge because you're not jaded by like what people think is possible in that industry. In the same way of how somebody could come from home services and come into e-commerce, they might be able to see something that maybe most people don't. Uh, so with that in mind, like home services was something that was always interesting to me. And I've had cleaners throughout my entire life that take care of like when I used to live at my parents' house and then it was like when I lived out on my own, I've always had cleaners. And I think it was like about a year and a half ago, I just was like, yeah, there's just like I wish this was different. And then a friend of mine who kind of built something out of kind of like teaching how to do this, I was like, oh, okay, well, like let's see what this is all about. And so I jumped in, not really knowing anything about the industry, but I thought, okay, this is definitely something that I could do because I have a lot of experience in business. And I think that's the difference here. It's not like I was somebody that decided I want to do cleaning and was doing the cleaning myself and then trying to build a business around it. It's like I did the opposite, which is like I'm just going to come in and build the business, hire the cleaners, and then have them do the work. So even though I've only done one cleaning myself, which I don't ever want to do again, but it's taking that experience of business and then applying and being like, there's principles that apply across the board. And so as long as you understand marketing, as long as you understand operations, as long as you are able to track like your profit revenue, making sure that things are running smoothly, like those things can apply to any business. And so that's what I've done here is like, even though this is a cleaning business, I didn't want to get into another business that didn't have recurring revenue. And that was the other part of this that really intrigued me was the recurring revenue part because that's what compounds. So regardless of this business or any other business I get into, everything has to be based off of recurring. I don't want like the one-time transactions. And so far it's, about 8 months old now and I've I've far exceeded some other cleaning businesses that have been in business for many, many years. And my goal is to obviously 10x, like even where I'm currently at, to get this thing to be doing well over like $1 million a year easily. And if that's where it kind of stays at and I can do other things, I'll be very happy with that too.
Right on. Awesome.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that about your background moving from a marketing agency to e-commerce to cleaning business. That's really interesting. I think
Yeah, and we're to essentially it's like same thing that you're doing, but I was doing it for like local businesses for like med spa, float spa. I even did like a sushi restaurant once where I like literally broke their restaurant. They had so many customers that they had to shut down for 2 days because they couldn't handle the demand. Um, so that's why it's like I understand marketing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like I want to be doing it all myself because it's truly one of those things where like I'd much rather hire an expert that really knows what they're doing, and that allows me to work more on the business than in the business. Because otherwise it's like you get stuck in the trenches of like trying to do everything yourself. And so in the same way how like I'm not doing any of the cleaning, it's like, okay, I've got, 10, 12 cleaners now that are doing the fulfillment. The next part of it is really just evolving on my operational side so then I can fully remove myself to where like they're managing the schedules, they're doing all this stuff. But the marketing side of things, that's why I came to you because I was like, this guy just knows what he's doing. Why why not just adopt a system where it's already proven?
it makes total sense. I've noticed some of the best companies I've ever worked with, it's not that the owner is completely oblivious to marketing. In
Hmm.
fact, most of the companies that are successful that partner with us are they do understand marketing like pretty well. And I
Hmm.
think that actually makes it easier for them to outsource it because they sort of have an idea of like what to look for. Um, they know like typically the sales process at that point. So they have some experience. And I think that's kind of a misconception is people think that marketing companies are just for people that are completely clueless. But it's
Hmm.
oftentimes like the opposite, funny enough. Yeah, I wanted to
Yeah.
circle back to your story. So in the beginning, when you started your cleaning business, since you already had some experience with like the marketing and sales aspects, what did those first couple of months look like for you? Did you find anything in particular was like a lot different than you
Um,
anticipated? What things were easy? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean the biggest challenge with this specific business is this constant thing of not having enough cleaners, not having enough clients. So it's like there's times where it's like you got more clients than you have cleaners, and it's like, okay, so now I got more demand and then I have supply. But then it's like then it reverts where it's like, okay, now I have more cleaners because it's like I'm trying to meet like future demand, but then at the same time it's like not enough clients to fill that demand. So it's this constant like balancing of like you're just doing both simultaneously all the time and it's never going to be perfectly like in alignment where you have enough cleaners to meet all the demand, but that's like been the biggest lesson that I've learned. And then I went from like day one where I was like I'm spending money on ads. Like so many of these cleaning businesses are relying on referrals and just word of mouth marketing. And they're like, go to Chamber of Commerce, network, and like get out there, talk to people, like get your name out there. And I'm like, that's cool, but I don't like relying on hope marketing. I need to be tracking like what's working. And what they don't realize is once you start spending money on ads, it just inevitably happens that you're going to get to start people to reach out to you. Like since we started ramping things up, I've been getting a lot more people that are going and trying to book quotes. Like they're following us on like I'm getting like more Instagram DMs of people being like, hey, like, I'm looking for a cleaning service. I've got people calling now where I'm like, oh, how did you find out about us? It's like, oh, I saw you on Google. It's like, or I saw your Facebook ad. They didn't click the Facebook ad, but then it's like they go to the profile and then they call directly. So it's like what they don't realize is that paying is amplification. And I don't have time to sit around and be like, I'm just going to wait for these clients to find me. It's like, no, no, no. You got to get out there and you got to go find the clients. So go meet them where they are. So when I first started this, I was like, well, what are all these channels that I can market on? Like everybody's talking about LSA. For me, LSA hasn't worked. Like it just doesn't want to spend my money no matter how much I set the budget to $5,000 a week. It just doesn't want to spend it. So I'm like, okay, well, if LSA is what everybody preaches as like the godsend when it comes to getting cleaning leads, I was like, well, it doesn't work for me. So I
Mm,
started spending a significant amount on Thumbtack. But Thumbtack, it's like you're competing with a bunch of people. So I was like, okay, this channel works, but I need to have other channels where it's like they're coming directly to me, which would be Google AdWords, Facebook ads. And like I know how to run Facebook ads, but there's nuances that have made this significantly greater. And so when I first started, it was like I just threw everything at the wall. Like it wasn't for I think it was for the first like 4 or 5 months, like I didn't make any profit. I was actually negative, substantial amount because I was just spending on marketing. Like in the month of August, I think I spent close to like $4,500 in ads to only barely make like $10,000 in revenue. So I still lost like $2,500 for that month. But I'm okay with that because I know that like whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer wins in the long term. So now it's just been more of dialing in those ratios of like, okay, like I got to keep my cleaner ratio where it's like how much they're making is relative to like the revenues. Like that's got to stay under 45%.
Hmm.
Marketing, it's like, the sweet, like ideally people talk about 15%. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But like right now I'm spending close to like 15 to 25% because I'm overspending to try to acquire customers to get them on recurring. So as more recurring clients get added, that number will just automatically start to go down because now the cost to acquire customers is going to decrease because I've already acquired a good amount. But you can never stop advertising either. So for me, that's where it's like knowing business and just knowing those numbers, it's just math at the end of the day. So I just see it as a
Yeah.
math problem. Like, well, what do I need to move around to increase my conversion? And if I had the same amount of leads, but I had greater conversion, I could spend the exact same amount and still make more. And that's where I
Yeah.
think a lot of cleaning businesses don't understand that aspect of it. And so they're just running off of like, oh, well, like Suzanne, referred me a client. It's like, okay, cool. But like, how many times did you clean Suzanne's house before she referred you a client? And is that client going to stick with you? You could have gotten 4 or 5 clients in the span of time that you're waiting for Suzanne. But if you're cool with like making like, $6,000 a month, but you're doing all the work, then you're limited to your own capacity.
Yeah. What you just said was so powerful. It's true though. At the end of the day, marketing really just is an equation. And what you said about willing to spend more to acquire a customer, I think just having a background in business, that's really where the confidence comes from. Because a lot of people, especially starting out, I think you would agree, just based, you're connected with a lot of people in the community too. A lot of cleaning businesses, they're really afraid to spend money on marketing because they're just focused on that first clean revenue. They don't really understand recurring revenue, how it compounds over
Mhm.
time. Their margins are super thin, so they're kind of like in scarcity mode. And typically there's two ways to solve that, but I've really only one gets talked about, which is how do I acquire customers for cheaper? So
Yeah.
that's where people start bouncing around from, they're trying a new platform every month. They're trying to figure out, how they can just get cheaper leads. But then there's the whole other side, which is no, how do we make our customers worth more? And
Mhm.
that oftentimes has a much bigger impact on the business because if you take your average retention from just a one-off cleaning to let's say 12 months, on a recurring, then you could doesn't matter how expensive your leads are, you could pay double what you're currently acquiring leads for and still be profitable. So I like that you brought that up.
Yeah, I actually think I'm pretty sure one of them, I'd have to double check, but I did have like one recently that I converted from a one-time deep clean to now they're on a monthly recurring. And it's like, okay, so that went from, only $400 for this initial deep clean or something like that. And then now she's on a monthly schedule for, $200 a month or whatever, right? It's like there's the three ways that, like one-time clients to me are the worst. They're always a super high cost to acquire them because they want the move out clean, they want the deep clean. And it's like if I'm paying like $120 to acquire this lead or to acquire this customer, but I only make like $50 on them because then you got to take into account like all the other expenses and then I got to pay the cleaners and all that stuff. I'm like, to make $50 at the end of the day for this client, I'm like, that's not really good margins. But if that now person converts to like every 2 weeks or monthly, now all of a sudden I'm making, I'll make $300 in the next 30 days off of this client. So now that $120 to acquire them is great. And this is where like that compounds. And there's always going to be like churn amongst clients. And like that's the one thing here where it's like, at least for me right now, I'm still in the early stages. So when it's like losing that like recurring client, it hurts a little bit more right now because it's
Mhm.
like every single one means so much as far as like being able to compound and grow.
Yeah.
Even if it was at like 100 recurring clients, it's like you're still a baby. getting to like 200, 300 clients a month, like, okay, that's when it starts to kind of like stabilize. Because at least for my research, it's like 5% or under in this industry of churn is the perfect ratio. 5 to 8% is like the, yeah, you're kind of like in the, yellow zone. And then anything above 8% is like, okay, why are you losing so many clients kind of thing. But you also have to ask yourself, like, okay, is this a good client to lose? Or is this a client that I should have kept? Because sometimes you need to let these clients go because they're going to cause more like problems than good. So is it worth holding
Mhm.
on to them, knowing that like, are we just trying to keep them on for the money? Or is it something that like it's actually, you just got to let these people go because it's going to protect like your time and systems because they're always rescheduling. If they're always trying to like ask for more from you. It's not a good client, no matter
Yeah.
how much money you're making from them. And I think that's also sometimes like a lesson for other people. It's like, don't be afraid of like setting those boundaries. Like even as I was saying earlier, I had somebody that like wanted to cancel and then they got upset over a cancellation fee. And it's like, okay, but you're canceling your entire schedule. Like I'm not now gonna waive the cancellation fee and on top of that cancel you. It's like, no, you're leaving. Like you gotta protect like your systems and like sometimes people don't like it and that's okay.
Yeah. That's actually really interesting. I would love to ask you a question about that because I know in the early stages of business, you kind of have to be like a yes man when you're starting out. Like you're just trying to get cash flow, get clients coming in, and you might even spot some red flags right off the bat. But it's like,
Yeah.
okay, how do I turn down this client when I only have two other clients, right? So you start to like get more experience, and then once you build your clientele, you can be a little more restrictive. But
Mhm.
what would you say are some of those signs that you've spotted between people that might be like trouble clients versus ones that are going to be really good to keep around?
So I would say two things, which would be like the price haggling. So it's like, oh, like there was one guy where I'm like, dude, I'm already giving you a discount. And he's like, well, is that the best price that you would offer? I was like, I'm already giving you a discount. Like, yes, this is the best price that I can give you. And it's like, there's no more price negotiation here. But that's
Yeah.
also part of it too, of like, you really got to know your numbers. And while some people are going to look at this and say, wow, you're charging more. It's like, well, yes, because like got to pay the cleaners. I've got expenses. There's also taxes that are involved in this too. And so it's really interesting because clients don't understand any of that stuff. They hear you say, hey, it's going to be $220 a month to clean your home. And they're like, wow, that's really expensive. And you go, well, I mean, we do have expenses that go along with it. And they're like, well, I had somebody else that quoted me 120. I'm like, why haven't you gone with them then?
Right.
Because if it's a solo cleaner that's going to charge you 120, one, this is also a problem within the industry is that there's a lot of people are not charging enough. And because of that, it's making it more difficult for us as the professionals to charge what we're worth. So when you get the people that are charging a significantly less amount where they're like, I'll only charge you like $20 an hour to come and clean your home, or it's like you average it out and they're only charging like $15 an hour or something like that. But then now it's like I come in and I'm like, well, it's going to be like, close to $50 like relatively an hour. And they're like, well, that's a lot. Like I don't even make that much per hour. So that's the
Yeah.
challenge right there is like respecting your prices and knowing that like you need to charge what you need in order to stay in business. I don't want to discount my services all the time because then it's like I'm losing out a significant amount of money. So then the other red flag too would also be um, just like their expectations. Like every single client that I'm talking to, like I'm sending them a checklist. So like I have literally a PDF where it's like a breakdown of standard, deep clean, and move out clean, and it's all green checkbox, red checkbox of what's included because they might have expectations of what they think is included in a deep clean or what they think is including in a standard clean. And if you don't have anything to back that up to be like, no, this is what we actually include, then when you go to service their home, and let's say you didn't dust, I don't know, let's say you didn't like deep clean like the shower or something on a standard clean, but their expectation is that you should be doing that. Well, but that's not what the scope of work is, right? Like you're paying for based on what is the scope of work. And if the cleaners aren't providing something that shows system and consistency, then that's when you get into the challenge with the clients of having these expectations of what they think they should be getting for what they're paying, but that's never what was agreed upon. And so I try to make things as like upfront as possible of like, hey, like, here's our checklist, here's what's included. So that way if they see it and they're like, oh, well, could I add on this? It's like, well, yeah, that'd be an extra charge. Or if they say like something didn't get done, then you can reference back and be like, well, that's not part of what the cleaning is. So of course that's not going to get done. So it's
Mhm.
really important to have that in place. So that way, you're able to communicate with them. It's the same way of how I have cancellation and rescheduling fees. Like I don't go on the call and say like, hey, like if you cancel, it's going to be this, this, and this, but it is a part of like a very lengthy like booking email. Like when somebody first gets booked, it's like all the terms are right there. Like, so if they don't read that, I can't do anything about that. But
Yeah.
it's there. So now it protects me of being like, hey, if you decide to cancel last minute, it's like there's a cancellation fee. Will I waive it sometimes? Yes. But I also got to put things in place to make sure that the clients don't take advantage of you because the clients need you. You don't need the clients. They're coming to you for the service and you're providing the service. So it's up to you to determine what your pricing is, what your boundaries are, what your systems are that you're following, and to provide a great experience to them, but don't bend to what their desires are. It's like you're there to provide a service. If they can't afford you to do the cleaning, they're just not the right client for you. Don't lower your pricing just to accept that client. And that's kind of where I did accept everybody right away because I was like, I got to get a lot of people. I'm now transitioning more of like, this is the price. If they're like, that's more expensive than what I thought, I'm like, I could make it more. Like, so now it's more of a positioning of like, I'm not willing to give up the margin to be able to just take on the clients. Like, here's the price.
Yeah.
If they want it, cool. If they don't, it's like, hey, best of luck for you finding another client or a cleaner. Because I know that the ones that pay more are going to stay longer because it's not a problem for them.
Yeah. Such a good point. It's like you can have 100 pennies or a $1 bill, right? So it's
Yeah.
like with clients too, some people are just undercharging for their cleaning service and they're trying to grow their clientele. How do I get 100 clients, 200 clients? But if
Yeah,
if you're underpriced, you're just going to bury yourself right into the ground. So
for sure.
that's one of the things that I always strive when I'm talking to people is how do we actually get you to be in the more expensive zone? A lot of people are hanging out in that yellow zone where they might not be the cheapest, but they're also probably not charging enough. But in my opinion, that's like a horrible place to be in. You would rather be in the more expensive category with, some of the other companies. I wanted to just kind of rewind back to your start in the business, talk a little bit about like acquiring clients and more so about like running the business.
Hmm.
So so when you first started, so you were doing Thumbtack, tried LSA, wasn't really profitable for you, and then I'm sure
Hmm.
referrals, of course. Was it mostly Thumbtack and word of mouth? Like that's how you got your launch?
I started with Facebook ads, but it was mostly just doing the instant forms. And so it wasn't that the leads were bad quality, it's just that the barrier of them opting in was, I guess, not enough friction to be able to have a better quality as far as like the leads. So
Hmm.
started there. I also had LSA working, but what happened is I dropped below the 5 review minimum. And then when I got back up to that for the ads to be activated, it just didn't want to spend. Because before that, it was like spending like $1,000 um, a month kind of thing. And or sorry, like almost like the budget was set to like $1,000 a week. And it's like I was getting calls from LSA, but then since then, like whatever happened, like it just deranked me or whatever. So I stopped relying on LSA, so I just turned it off. That's when I
Hmm.
ended up going to really focusing on Thumbtack because I'm like, okay, well, there's people here that are looking for cleaning, and I can, obviously get them to be, able to take care of things, and the only problem is you're just working with like a bunch of other people that are also bidding on it as well. But I feel like
Yeah.
that's no different than LSA. Like they're still reaching out to other cleaning companies as well. It's not like they just reached out to you on LSA and that's the end of it. So while Thumbtack, it's like it's fairly expensive. I've kind of modified it to where it's like I can get like really inexpensive leads on there, and it's just been playing with the budget kind of thing.
Hmm.
And then referrals has been like the one thing I've had the least amount of. Like I think I've only had like one referral, and it was somebody that like used their booking qual referral link and they got that. Like I've set up like telling people like you can refer us to other people. I've created like these things which are like golden tickets. So it's like I made like this whole like golden ticket where it's like you can give this to people and then it gives them a discount. And like I haven't cracked the code yet on the referral aspect of it, whether it's like the service is just like it's just perfect enough to where like they're happy with the cleaning, but it's not like exceptional enough where like they're running around the neighborhood telling them that like so and so you need to hire them as your cleaner. So referral's been like the one source that like I don't have a lot of yet. I've done pizza flyers where it's like I printed out 2,500 flyers that were like tailored to like a cleaning service and paid a pizza place like 200 bucks to put 2,500. Got absolutely no calls or texts from that. I was like, all right, something went
Uh,
horribly wrong with this. Either the flyer was just a bad design, they didn't properly put it on the pizza box, so like people just didn't see it. But I was like, it's an experiment. So when it comes to
the
marketing,
Steam ate away at the graphics, I guess. Who knows?
something happened. She was like, "Bring me another 400 flyers." I was like, "Listen, if 2,500 flyers didn't work, I'm not bringing you another
Yeah,
400 flyers." Plus, like the 10,000 flyers that I did buy got lost in the mail, so I'm like, it was just meant to be.
jeez.
So I'm not opposed to like doing anything and everything to test out what marketing is working. So it's like I threw everything at the board, and I'll still continue to test out different ways. But now it's like, okay, if I'm just focusing on Facebook, Google Ads, and Thumbtack, like,
Mhm.
can those three be scalable enough to bring me enough business to where it can grow? I tried bark.com. So yeah, like I said, I did billboards, dude. I did billboards here on the freeway too, using blip billboards where it's like you pay like, fractions of a penny for it to just like display for like 5 seconds. I've done that. Like anything and everything I will test out as long as I can see if there's an ROI.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly open-minded, which I think is a good trait to have. I want to talk. I know like some people watching this might be in the early stages of their business and they're probably wondering like which marketing channels should I try? Um,
Yeah.
and there's usually a couple that often get thrown out. Thumbtack, Angie, those tend to be ones that have a bad rap, but you're obviously someone who's had some success with them. So if someone wanted to go down that route, like let's say they don't really have a brand yet, they don't have many reviews, I tell people like that's actually a decent place to consider because it's kind of like the Amazon of for home services where those
Hmm.
sites already have a lot of traffic coming to them and you're just like paying for a spot to be in their ecosystem basically. So
Yeah.
you don't necessarily need, a ton of experience. You can start getting some bites pretty quickly. But like you mentioned, you are being shared with other providers too. So like if someone wanted to start with those platforms, do you think there's like a certain skill set they should have before they consider it? Like what things should they keep in mind maybe?
I've had so far like a fairly decent experience with Thumbtack, and you're right, it is kind of like the Amazon of like home services. It's almost as if like trust is built into it because it's the same way of how like somebody will buy from Amazon because they trust Amazon, regardless of the product, right? So when they're going to Thumbtack and Thumbtack recommends, these three cleaners, or it's like they match you with these three cleaners, whoever is going to reach out to them first, one is going to be the highest probability of them getting the job. So you kind of
Sure.
have that trust built in of like Thumbtack's recommending. Plus, they do like the whole background check and like all these things, and you can like optimize your profile and blah blah blah. What I didn't know about Thumbtack when I first signed up was that you're paying for the lead regardless of if you contact them or not. So when I first turned it on, I didn't know that. And so like it went for like a couple days. It's like there's leads were coming in, and then like I went in there and I was like, how the hell have I spent like $532? And like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, why have you charged me $532? Like, well, for the leads. So it doesn't matter if you accept it or decline it, you're paying for it. If you're like starting, I would probably recommend Thumbtack initially just because like the demand is already built in there. What I
Mm.
did was like I did like a good amount of spend on there and then they let you adjust like what your max bid is essentially like per type of client. So I only focus on like residential. So like I deselected everything that's not residential. So like
Mhm.
vacation rentals, construction, anything that I didn't want, like I made sure that that was deselected. And then I also made sure like the areas that I'm focusing on, those are also set up too. So you can't just like launch and then just let it be. It's like you need to go in there and tweak a little bit of stuff. And then what I'll do is I'll set the max bid price like a little bit higher just to start getting it flowing. And then once I start to get that consistent flow of leads coming in off of that budget, then I slowly start bringing it all the way down to where it's literally as low as possible. And so my average cost per lead on there has been like anywhere between like 15 to $20 for even, some bigger jobs. Some people leave it too high and it's like you're paying 40, 50, $60 for like a one bedroom apartment because they tell you it's more competitive, but then
Mhm.
you're paying a lot more. So that's why sometimes I think people are like, Thumbtack sucks because it's like I'm spending so much to acquire the lead. And I'm like, well, it's no different than any other advertising platform. Like they give you those features for you to mess with the budgeting anyway.
That is interesting. It sounds a lot actually like the Google Ads bidding strategy where
Exactly.
yeah, they recommend like a range for your cost per click and for those who have never run Google Ads, they'll tell you like, hey, this is what we recommend you spend per click. And they're just basing those numbers off of averages supposedly. But we've
Yeah.
actually tested, if you go on the lower limit, do you still get traffic, still get clicks? And the answer is yes, you do. You just have to, you can't always take what these platforms tell you at face value. So that's actually very interesting. But in your case, once you started closing clients, you're fulfilling them, did you have like that certain epiphany moment in your cleaning business where maybe it was like a certain amount of clients that you hit, maybe it was a certain revenue uh, number that you hit. Did you have like a certain milestone where once you achieved it, you're like, oh wow, like this is possible. I could scale this.
Yeah, so the first milestone was 10,000. So part of the group that I'm in, it's like you have to do 10,000 in a month within 4 months was kind of like what they set as like that milestone. So like I can get um so then I got like my own version of like a ClickFunnels like plaque. So, and then they have like another one that's like for $30,000 in a month, then 50,000, then $100,000 in a month. And so the goal was to hit $10,000 in 1 month within 4 months. So I did it in 3 months. But it was significant for me because I did it on my birthday. So my birthday is August 28th. And so it was like I was getting close to the end of the month and I'm like, I gotta hit $10,000 this month. Like I have to hit my goal. Like I have to do this. And so like I was cranking on, that's why I said like I ended up going negative that month, but I hit my goal. So I was like, okay, I
Mhm.
wasn't profitable, but I still hit my revenue goal, which then made me be like, wow, like here we go. And I was telling people, I'm like, I'm gonna do $10,000 this month. It's like, so I had to fulfill that. And it was on my birthday. I knew the next 2 days that we were going to be driving back home, and like the next 2 days, I wasn't going to be able to take phone calls like as much as I was for that entire week. So it was like I had to hit it on my birthday, otherwise, like I wasn't going to hit it. There's moments in like entrepreneurship that like you'll never forget, and it's like that will definitely be one of those milestones like I'll never forget in this business of like hitting the 10,000. And it's a curse at the same time because now it's I did it and I'm like, okay, cool, like on to the next goal. Now the goal is
Mhm.
like 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 a month. And it's like, okay, I'll hit the 100,000, but there's something about like that initial milestone goal that has so much more weight and
Mhm.
like meaning to it than the other thing. It's money is fascinating in the sense of like you need it for everything, but if you let it be everything, then it
Mhm.
means nothing.
Yep.
And it's because like we need it to be able to like pay for things, but at some point in time, like when you have more than enough, like its significance doesn't hold the same weight and it just becomes this vehicle.
All right. So with your when you hit that milestone, what if you had to like just kind of boil it down into some key concepts that you think help,
Yeah.
what would you say? Like what were the main points?
I mean the two things would be the I spent a good amount of marketing and then it was also like I was calling every single lead as soon as it came in. Like it's if it was out if it was within hours of like when it made sense to me to call a lead, even if it's like 7:30 at night, I was calling that lead. My cutoff is usually like 8 p.m. Like I've taken some calls at like 7:59 kind of thing, but it's like I try to make it towards like after 8 p.m. But Thumbtack is like they come in at like any hour of the day. I'll wake up
Mhm.
to the emails where it's like somebody emailed at like 3:35 in the morning. I'm like, what are you doing up at that time? And then it's like I send them a quick message, and then it's like, okay, then as soon as, morning time hits, then I'm like, okay, I'll call them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like you have persistence on your side at like and being diligent about yeah, following up with the leads. Like if you're available, they're available, you're gonna go after
Yeah.
it.
I try to call them as much as possible. Like I set tasks for like following up with people. I've also had some people where it's like, dude, you contacted me way too many times. Like I'm not interested anymore. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, so we obviously we're helping Greg with his marketing, here at Celebrity Maid, the paid traffic and automation. Um, what things have you seen so far? We've just onboarded, I think, just under a month ago, but any
Yeah.
differences that you've noticed in terms of like leads coming in, bookings, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, so like we've had a good amount of leads coming in now, but it's more so of like I really like that I like the friction of what the leads are having to go through in order to actually get set up for us to talk to them. I think sometimes like when you add a little bit of friction, it increases the quality of the lead just because like they're actually having to go through some additional steps in order to get to the point to talk to you. I also think that makes it feel a little bit more premium. It's not like just a quick click and like, there's your lead kind of thing. Anytime you can add a little bit of friction, it's a good thing. I've actually been thinking about is like, is there any way we could add more friction potentially to really, make sure these people are ready to go kind of thing, right? Um, so that's been a huge thing. And also it's just knowing that like it's getting done properly.
Well, yeah, I think the booking thing, the way that we changed, like you alluded to a little bit, was pre-qualifying the bookings. Everyone just thinks that the answer is always leads, 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 but how do we
Yeah.
actually make that process more professional for someone to, come in and get on your calendar easier? That's really it.